Hi there, this is JD from Slithering Oddities. I'm going to be doing a quick video on Antaresia today, just to explain some things. I think there's some varied care out there that's being put out on these, and I'm just here to kind of clear the air and the smoke on that. I recently sold an Eastern Stimson's python, which is what this little guy is, actually a little girl, to someone, and he was getting a lot of conflicted information out there, so I just wanted to go over some things and explain how to keep Stimson's, children's, spotteds, and anthill pythons. I don't actually keep the anthill pythons, but from what I understand, I've read the care is pretty much the same. I keep all my spotted Stimson's and children's at the same temperatures. I keep a hot spot of 90 degrees. The low end of the cage gets down into the high 70s. I don't really do a night drop much until breeding season, and then I will drop down to about 72 at night for several hours before bringing the temperature back up to daytime highs. These are awesome little animals. Everything you read about Antaresia seems to say that they're docile, and this one has definitely shown that, but I can tell you that that's not the case. If you talk to a lot of other breeders out there that work with these animals, it takes some handling to get them calmed down. They don't calm down as quick as some other species do, but they will calm down with regular handling. Don't let it scare you off from buying one. Sometimes when I'm at shows, I'll have an animal like this, and I picked a little guy because I figured he would probably be a little more reactive, and I can show you their reactivity, but this thing is just being awesome right now. So but a lot of times they'll get up on their heels and they will strike at movements and things like that. It shows. I will often let hatchlings, if someone's interested in buying one but they're worried about that behavior out of the gate, I'll often let one bite me so that they can see that it doesn't really even draw blood or like cause an issue. So if it's not going to hurt you, you're less scared of it out of the gate, and then that solves that problem of where you go home and you're not used to keeping a reactive snake, but every time you go in, this snake is getting on its heels, it's striking at you, and you're afraid of it. You don't want to touch it because you're afraid it's going to bite you. And I was a young keeper once, and I was new at keeping, so I totally understand that. Like you get an animal and it's cage defensive and it doesn't want to come out, and it scares you off. And guess what? That's exactly what that animal is trying to do to you. So technically you're kind of rewarding the behavior by walking away at that point. But if the behavior worries you, what I do with a lot of snakes is I take a hook, and I'll just lightly touch the snake somewhere to maybe get it going so that it knows I'm not food right when I get in the enclosure. Usually if you can get a snake to turn around and start moving on you, you can pick it up pretty easily. Once they go into flight, you're usually pretty good to go. I'm not saying that snakes won't turn around, but oftentimes that's not the case. I'm sorry if you see any blood on my hands. A spotted got me earlier here. Yeah, I just want to show off these awesome Antaresia, and I know a lot of people classify them as semi-arboreal, and they are semi-arboreal, but they're not as semi-arboreal as, say, like an Amazon tree boa or a jungle carpet or a Brettles carpet or something along those lines, even a Macklot's python. They will climb if given the opportunity, but they often prefer to hunt on the ground. I know my animals benefit greatly from belly heat. I swear by belly heat with pythons and snakes. Overhead heat and back heat, it just doesn't get it done for me, in all honesty. I swear by the belly heat. I feel like it helps them digest the meals a lot better. And then, they like to be secure, a nice tight hide area where they can feel safe. They are very small. A lot of people take something like this and they want to put it into a bigger enclosure because they want something naturalistic and they want it to thrive. The one thing I will say about naturalistic enclosures, they're great and they can be awesome for adult snakes, but I watch a tarantula guy called Dave's Little Beasties. He's out of England, and he says it best. Everybody's trying to recreate the wild, and this ain't the wild, people. Like sometimes standard and basic is a little better for your animals, especially at a young size. So always remember that. Little pythons, very nervous, very scared little creatures that if they are too scared and too stressed, they will decide not to eat in your enclosure. A big open enclosure makes them feel unsafe, like they are vulnerable to predation. So don't go big with small pythons. Not a good idea. Okay, let's move on. I'll show you a couple more animals here. These ones are animals that are breeders of mine, and they're not handled a ton. So they might have variable behavior, so I am going to use a hook with them. At least 2 of these animals have bitten me before. I don't want to get bit on camera, you know, I don't want to put the snake in that light, but you know, that's keeping snakes. Sometimes that happens, and when you're a breeder, you know, not everything gets handled out, you know, like you would if you're a pet. This is a striped spotted python. Beautiful animal. Actually bit me earlier. He's pretty hungry. He thought I was going to give him food. He didn't. He's just looking for anything he can possibly eat today. But beautiful animal. This is an Australian addiction line striped spotted python. This is a polygenic trait that can be passed on just from breeding one to like a normal. I'll also show you some granite spotteds and a couple other things. But yeah, care on these guys, all virtually the same. You're looking at that 90 degrees hot spot, about 55% humidity, and everything else should fall right in line for you from there. This guy does not like getting off my hook before I show you something else, so I'll do my best here without him getting a hold of me. All right, there we go. All right, next up I've got a granite spotted python, which I'm really excited about, and I've actually crossed the stripe and the granite genes this year, and as far as I know, no one's doing that in the U.S. currently. Let me get a hold of him in a good spot, and then I'll show you. He's curling on me. That's the thing, when you're picking up a snake and you know it's not in position where you can't get it to get bit, set it down and start over. You know, just get them to the point where you can work with them a little bit better, which is what I'm doing right now. You can't see it, but that's what I'm doing. Okay, here is a granite spotted python. These things are awesome. They have a wicked iridescence to them. Just amazing animals. And this is a male. I'm mostly showing males here. The granite gene basically washes out the spotting and gives the animal more of an overall darker appearance with some black flecking. This is a molecular reptile line from Ryan Young. He's got him in the Australian addiction lines I mentioned earlier. There's some top-notch stuff in Antaresia pythons. This guy looks like he's going to try to have my finger. So we'll just leave him hanging for a quick sec until I readjust. Very nice cream bellies there on these guys. Very, very clean and light. Just beautiful, beautiful creatures. You can't beat the iridescence. It's so good. I don't know if it's picking up on here as well as it should, but it's almost as good as like a Macklot's or a white lip or a rainbow. But yeah, the granite is a cool gene. I really enjoy it. Super fun to look at. Super awesome. The one good thing I will say about Antaresia is when it comes to feeding, when you have an established animal, you know, babies can be a little finicky to get started, and some of them are quite tough. I will not lie about that. But the majority of them will take rodents right out of the gate, and the majority of them that take rodents will take frozen thawed rodents out of the gate. So as far as Antaresia go, they're not ever problem feeders. If your Antaresia goes off feed, it's probably a gravid female or a male that's just in breed mode and not worried about eating. But most of my males eat clear through breeding season if I offer. I don't offer meals every week, but I offer meals, you know, every 2 to 3 weeks to males. What I'm going to show you now here is a special project of ours here at Slithering Oddities. When I first bred this, I thought it was, I had received a pair of animals in a trade when I was getting out of ball pythons. I traded some baby ball pythons for a pair of children's pythons, is what they were labeled on someone's table. The male, he's always been really nice, light, you know, that typical caramely children's look. And then the mom, I always maybe wondered if there wasn't a little bit of something else like spotted going on in her. She just looked a bit too dark in her markings for children's. But, you know, the babies usually came out looking pretty children-eye, nice faded. You know, I've got babies here from her still that I've held back. But this animal came out at one point. And this animal came out, let me adjust here, she's getting the upper hand on me. This animal came out completely patternless. So there is some spotted influence here with her. We call her Mango here. But she is definitely, good Lord, Mango. But she is definitely a patternless animal. You know, you can see slight patterning on her neck there, but that's about it. And she gets some real nice, like, rust red colors to her after shed and things like that. When she was little, she was much redder. She is honestly probably one of my most docile Antaresia as an adult that I have. But she was handled quite a bit when she was young. She was also a problem feeder out of the gate. So I had to do some heavy assist feeding with her. She would not take meals down unless I got them down past her throat. Readjust here. Come on, Mangs. Oh, quit doing that, girl. I'll pick her back up in a second. But so I bred them this year. So I bred her father back to her, thinking he was the maker because he's so light and washed out, and he could possibly, you know, like sometimes he looks near patternless. Not quite as dark as her, but you know, sometimes he's barely got a pattern depending on, you know, the light and things like that. But so I bred her to him this year, and I didn't really get anything abnormal looking. I got one baby that's not doing very well, and it's a little darker and a little odd. So I'm hoping that what this turns out to be is a recessive gene. I've talked to a couple people. One guy I talked to, Peter Birch, seemed to think it was a recessive gene. But yeah, really cool project. A little disappointed that there's spotted python mixed in there, you know, but it is what it is, and we'll keep trying to prove it out. You know, we've got 5 babies here that we held back from her clutch. So hopefully she'll produce something really cool for us here, and we'll just keep trying to breed it back into children eye as much as we possibly can. That way it gets purer and purer, because it looks quite a bit like the patternless children's pythons that I see in Australia. So yeah, it'll be really nice to breed some more that look like her and have them available, or, you know, be able to work with a bigger group and produce even more, so we could have some available. But we'll keep trying. She's definitely big enough. She'll definitely breed this year again. Super cool animal. Mango, the children's python, with a little bit of spotted. Okay. So, setup for baby Antaresia. Simple, simple, simple. A drawer that is no bigger than this, or a container or enclosure that is no bigger than this. Okay, this is a stair-like container. I'm not sure if it has measurements on it. I'd have to guess that it's about 11 inches long and about, oh, here we go. It's 14 3/8 long 8¼ wide and 6 high. And honestly, that might be too big for a hatchling as well. You might want to, I think you could get away with that, but you'd want to definitely have a couple hides and stuff in there. You know, honestly, something like this, that I have this little Stimson's python in, this would be a better enclosure for a baby Antaresia, because they don't have as much ground to carry, and they're just gonna or to cover, and they're just gonna feel safer in something like that. Let's see, what else did I miss? Let's see, there is a lot of crossing out there of them, so as we just talked about with Mango's mother being crossed with a spotted. When I bred Mango's mother back to one of Mango's siblings this year that looked completely children eye, I got like these weird like Cape York children eye looking things, which I'll probably be offering for sale soon. They actually look pretty cool, but you know, they're crossed, so I'm not sure how much demand there's going to be for something like that, but which I can actually show you one of those if you would like. I will be right back. All right, here's one of these weird little jerks, and he is not happy at all. But yeah, this is what came out of Mango's mom. This is like it's definitely got to be like a spotted children eye cross. See how I just got bit there? I don't like to show snakes in a bad light biting people. It's nothing. I mean, it's literally nothing. So no marks even. It bit me right there on that middle finger. There is nothing. Okay. So now he's starting to calm down. He's still a little cranky, but you know, he's starting to get there, you know. So it takes a few times of working with him. But yeah, this is a really wild looking freaking animal. Just very, very tan. Sorry, I gotta put one of these guys down. You can see this one's very reactive. But yeah, super weird looking little python. Doesn't quite look like a spotted, doesn't quite look like a children eye. Just a cranky little python. All right. I'll put this guy back and I'll be right back. Another thing you can do if you've got little Antaresia that are being cranky and bitey like that one was, a lot of times you'll see them like they'll almost look at your hand weird, and you can almost see it coming. I see this with pythons frequently, actually, right before they bite me, unfortunately. But a lot of times they'll like kind of take a second look at your head or your hand and cock their head a little bit. But a lot of times you can notice that, and if you can see that, all you have to do is just turn, you know, just turn your hand or just move the snake so that it disorients a bit, redirect it, and a lot of times you will get out of that without getting bit. It's just something I notice. I'll have them on my hand and I'll see them getting ready to tear into me, and I just turn my hand like that or something, and then so you can see that snake totally redirected. I do it again, redirect again. It's just knowing the animals and getting used to their behaviors, and actually, you know, like a lot of people out there don't teach things like this, and at Slithering Oddities, we're not about gatekeeping. We want to teach everybody everything that we can about snakes. So if there's something I missed in this video, or if there's something you would like to know, feel free to ask. We'll never gatekeep information, even breeding information. You know, this stuff needs to be out there. We're under like all this fire from lawmakers and people that don't understand us and what we do. You know, we're just like dog and cat keepers. You know, I have dogs and cats too. You know, I love all animals. Like, the problem is that we don't have people that love animals. Enforcing animal laws is part of the issue, but I won't go into that too much. But you know, like we don't need to be portrayed in a bad light. So, but yeah, they're great little animals. You can find Antaresia genus pretty much all across the northern and central part of Australia. I believe used to be the Stimson's python had the biggest range, so now I guess the children's python has the biggest range, since Stimsons are classified as children's, although I'm not totally in agreement with that either. I think the animals look a little bit different. The eastern Stimsons tend to retain more of a solid pattern that doesn't fade out like children's do. They also tend to have more yellows and reds to them. And then there's also the western Stimsons, which actually have quite a bit of yellow to them. They look quite a bit different. So who knows, maybe they'll redo the taxonomy one day, maybe not, but I'll keep my Stimsons separate and keep breeding them as Stimsons and not children's. Same thing I do with spotteds. We also keep Cape York spotteds. I can show you one of those if you like as well, and I'll show you like a kind of a normal pattern children's. I'll be right back. Okay. These things are psychopaths. Let me reposition. I'll get him lifted up so you can see him better. Oh, come on, buddy. Go the other way for me, would you? There we go. Hey. Hey. This is actually Mango's clutchmate brother, and he has not been handled much, and he is not happy with being out of here at all. But yeah, that's your more traditional children's python pattern. See how it's a little more faded out than what the Stimson eye pattern is. They look similar, but there is more of a faded pattern. As children eye get bigger, it gets even more faded too. That was lovely. He just bit himself. But another thing I will say is a lot of guys catch flack for using hooks in this business. It's like it's getting better nowadays, but when I was younger, man, everybody be like, "Don't use a hook. You're a wuss." You know what? That's just crazy, man. Like, you use your tools so you don't get bit. You see him just open his mouth there? He wants a piece of me bad. Why do I want to bleed? Why do I want to lose blood? You know what I mean? Like, that's insane, you know? Like, I don't want that. You don't want that. Hey. I see you looking at my other hand there. But yeah, we'll get this guy back since he's a little feisty, and maybe we can break out a Cape York, and maybe one of those will behave a little bit better than this guy. Children's python. Super cool. This is a Cape York spotted python. This is a locale spotted python that comes from the Cape York Peninsula. This one's a little dark because it's in shed right now, but they often have a little more yellow to them than your standard spotted, a little bit more of a less spotted pattern. Super cool, super beautiful. One of my favorites of the spotteds, actually. They don't command the highest price, but they're one of the most beautiful for sure. I like them all. You know, I say this is one of my favorites, but they're all my favorites. Oh, sorry, darling. Let's get you repositioned there. Yeah, she's a little calmer than those other guys were. But yeah, Australian animals, super cool animals. They may not calm as quickly as, say, like a juvenile ball python will for you, but I guarantee you they'll be a more rewarding animal in the long run. They just, you know, they're more active. They're more apt to eat regularly. Ball pythons notoriously go through hunger strikes. It's just part of their nature, and we as people misread it badly, actually. You know, they probably don't. Ball pythons do not eat as much in the wild as we want to feed them in captivity. Not saying don't feed your animals, but you know, when a ball python goes off of food, it's usually because it knows it wants to go off of food, and there's usually nothing you're going to do that's going to change that until they're ready to eat. But these guys, you know, you don't have that problem. You don't have the humidity issues that you do with them or boas, so you don't have to worry about the shedding. You don't have the girth. These are going to be a lot smaller animal than an adult ball python, girth-wise, and smaller lengthwise as a female too. I've got some pretty good size adult ball pythons back here in my back corner, stuff that's like 30 plus years old. And I'm telling you, these animals are big. The one looks pretty much like a blood python. She's a little thinner than that, but you'd be shocked at how big she is if you've never seen an adult female ball python before. So yeah, great pets. You just got to make sure you handle them frequently. Great eaters. They won't need, there's something you can feed mice their whole life if you don't want to switch to rats, which are getting quite pricey nowadays. Not that mice aren't either, but you know, mice are still a little cheaper. So they'll do fine on mice. You don't need anything super fancy. You can decorate and put them in an enclosure that has quite a bit of things to climb on as an adult, and they'll use it. Or you know, you can keep them fairly basic and they'll do just fine either way. They're super hardy, super adaptable. Yeah, the biggest thing I wanted to go over was the hatchling care. I think there's just I think some people are getting some bad information out there on hatchlings. But yeah, Antaresia genus, something pretty cool. If you have any questions or anything, just leave them below. I'll be glad to answer them for you. Or you can find us on Facebook or Instagram. Our name is Slithering Oddities. We specialize in Australian pythons. We also do a few species of colubrids and boas. And we work with over 20 species of snakes. So check us out if you're into snakes. We have a lot of cool stuff. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that like button.